Muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches. Bienvenidos a otro Conversando Concisos. Mi nombre es Edgar Rojas. Como siempre, es de Estados Unidos, un poco frío todavía por acá. Y hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial, Kai Roer. Nos acompaña desde Suecia. 3 de la noche, 3 de la tarde allá en Suecia. Me mostró la nieve, impresionante. Vamos a conversar con Kai acerca de Security Culture. Él es una eminencia en este mundo, en este tema, y vamos a conversar con él acerca de eso. Pero antes de comenzar, como siempre, la invitación al el mayo 17 y 18 en Cartagena y Colombia. Y nos acompañó en el primer CISOs Latin Summit que hicimos en Cartagena. La gente todavía está hablando acerca del famoso...
Very good times, very good times.
Very good time. La gente todavía está hablando acerca del famoso Golden Bullet. Entonces, no ha parado de conversar, pero de verdad, la invitación, acompáñenos, miren el tacticaledge.co, miren la gente que nos están acompañando, es impresionante. Tenemos a TK Chianini, el CTO de Cisco Secure, tenemos al doctor Benjamin Edwards, partner y chief scientist de Scientia Institute. Si no conocen a Scientia Institute, es el instituto que le ayuda a todo el mundo con el tema de como el tema de, se me olvidó la palabra, de datos y cosas así. Ellos le ayudan a Cisco con el Global Security Report, le colaboran con Verizon Bridge para analizar toda la información que ellos obtienen y les ayudan bien buenos. La invitación táctica SEO, nos quedan como 4 o 5 cupos únicamente, y el evento es para CISOs y directores de ciberseguridad de la región. Así que nos acompañen. Vamos a conversar con Kai acerca de cybersecurity culture o security culture. Y comenzamos en inglés. Kai, thank you so much. Good to see you. You don't change. You have you have like a nice picture of you in the attic, like a Dorian Gray type of, because you haven't aged in 4 years, man. Good for you.
Thank you so much, Edgar. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be on this show, and it's great to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Está bien. I remember that one.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So you just started a new company this year, right, in January. Tell us about the company. What's the name of the company and what's your focus?
So in January, I started a company together with 3 really, really smart people. Emil Lake, which I built culture with back in the day. Thea Mannix, who is a PhD in neuroscience, and Jacopo Paglia, who is a PhD in statistics. Together, we are looking at cybersecurity and process management. The company is called Praxis Security Labs. Labs because we are scientific and research focused. Security because it's more than just culture or awareness or cyber, actually. It's a broader scope. Mm-hmm. And Praxis because it's all about doing the right things the right ways. So, yeah.
Interesting. And you also came out with a book. Was it the book at the same time or after?
The Security Culture Playbook.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the book is a year ago, April last year.
Okay. So I was confused because I thought I read about, I don't know if it was a new edition that came out or it was coming out again. But that book was very well received worldwide, yes. Right? That's tell us about that book.
That was a book I co-authored with a former colleague of mine, Perry Carpenter. He's a really, really smart guy and very clever with words. So together we mulled over a lot of concepts around security culture and for me personally, it was a huge, a success or checkpoint that we published it on Wiley. It's been a dream of mine for many, many years growing up Europe in a tiny country called Norway, and then looking at these amazing American global kind of books coming out from Wiley and O'Reilly and those kind of public. Now I am a Wiley author. And
You're a published author. Congratulations. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of research and stuff like that. So, Kai, just as a plug, personal plug, I did my research and I came out with something called the ransomware control matrix, or rcxmatrix.org, that I released a couple of weeks ago. And basically that starts to identify what are the controls that need to be in place to detect and mitigate ransomware attacks, right?
really
and one
important.
of the main controls was security awareness, which it's not out of this world. Security awareness is a control that protects you across all the different techniques, the MITRE attack techniques that were identified. But yet again, we see everyone has deployed a lot of those controls that we identify, technical controls and controls, and they're still getting attacked, successfully ransomware. And every time that we see the report, it's always phishing. It's always the user. So how difficult then is it to actually implement a good cybersecurity culture in the organizations?
So that question, Ed, is a key question, and one that our industry has been struggling to answer for, I don't know, I've been in this industry 30 years, I think it is 30 years or something, and we actually don't know the answer.
No, we don't know.
We have a number of hypotheses, like, for example, phishing assessment will help your employees understand the mechanisms used by hackers. Programs that will teach them how to discover red flags, as they called sometimes, or other triggers that hackers are using to trick you to be phished. But the challenge is that we don't actually know how effective these tactics are. We also don't know, are there other tactics?
The tactics to train to figure out, identify phishing attacks and everything. But we've been doing this for 15, 20 years now. So we should have a lot of information.
We still don't know how it works, or if it works, or how well it works. Okay. We are assuming that it works. But one thing that we also have been doing in that time frame, which has worked dramatically well, is improve technology. So one example I like to bring up in conversations is Google, Gmail. One of the huge innovations they did when they came about was to scan through all emails that came through to all Gmail users, and then just, this is in 50 mailboxes around the world. Obviously spam, take it away. The same they do with phishing and other kind of security. And the interesting thing here is that we then have been able to create technology that are smarter, in a sense, than people in discovering some of these threats. But is it enough? No, obviously not. If it was enough, we wouldn't see ransomware and kind of attacks succeeding. But how effective is training? We don't know. I spoke with a CISO today, and in his organization, we are talking probably 30,000 employees. And he said, Kai, one of my biggest problems as a CISO is that I know that 90%, so 90% of my awareness budget is not working.
Whoa.
I just don't know which 10% does. Right?
Oh my God.
And this is reality for many CISOs and organizations out there. They know they have to invest somewhere in the organization because some parts of it works, but they don't know which part works. And that brings us actually back to Praxis and my company. One of the things we do with our customers is help them remove that kind of friction in their security programs. And imagine if I could help you take away cost, and you can reinvest that somewhere else in your security program. Imagine the benefit for you.
Of course, it's mind-boggling. So let's go back to that, because you had the keyword training, right, for security awareness. Training is different for every organization, right? So there's no like kind of benchmark, or there's no complete type of training. I mean, so how do we deal with that where there's no common language in what training is?
So I think that there are some generic baselines that
Okay.
can be general enough for most organizations. So, for example, password hygiene would be relevant. Some of the obvious flags in a phishing assessment, stuff like that.
Okay.
But there's a huge difference from stuff till adapting to, for example, the energy sector or the hospitality sector or hospitals. Another conversation I had with a CISO some time ago was that, Kai, in our hospitals is really important. We understand that. But is it really possible that or is it possible a scenario in an ER operation room? Maybe 10 different people, each one of them need their own unique sign-on and passwords. And when they are like, oh, I need to log into there, I first need to log out Ed, and then I need to add my own stuff. And not only do I need to add my own stuff, which will take a few seconds, I have to remember this password that is 16 characters, mix of capitals and normal, maybe a symbol in there. But where did I put that symbol? And they have to be unique, every single fucking password I use, which means that, oh, this was for my mail service, maybe. Is that why? So maybe I need to reason. People die while we wait for that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think one of the things we as security professionals need to understand is that the world is not like it is in our head. The world out there is trying to do a different job, like saving people, right?
Yeah.
Or opening Excel attachments because they need to review the offer or whatever it is that their job is. And I think that we as security professionals have kind of forgotten that our job is to make your job more secure, not by making it more difficult or by teaching you that don't open that attachment, but instead putting in place systems, training, knowledge to help you do your job more efficiently with better security. Not more security, but better security.
Security. So are you saying one of the goals will be go ahead and implement a good security solution with the business goals in mind, so that you're not an obstacle, but you're an enabler of that business? And at the same time, not afterwards, at the same time, develop a good security awareness, a good training program around that solution. So everyone, when they start using this, what should be good hygiene, what should be good activities, which a lot of companies don't do that at the same time. They do it afterwards, correct?
Mm-hmm. So doing it at the same time is one key. The other key is to understand that we are not only talking about technology, or only talking about people, or only talking about process.
Mm-hmm.
These three things are interchanged. They are interconnected. They're not separate entities. They are like the same thing, just different perspectives. Which means that if I want you to do something specific in my computer systems, yes, I need to teach you how to do it, so the training. I also sort of policy to tell you what is the right stuff to do and what is the wrong things to do, so I can, help you do the right stuff by the right reasoning. And I need to tweak that technology, and this is the crux, to make it easy for you, not me, for you to do the right thing, which is your job, and not the wrong thing. And if you can go back 10, 12 years ago, and we had this election in the US where Hillary Clinton was really, she made some mistakes, and our industry was like very vocal on you should not use Gmail for White House work email stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, from the surface of it, that makes sense. Don't use Gmail private service to do your business as a vice president.
Government,
Sure,
yeah, exactly.
fine. But why did she do that? None of us actually paid much attention to that.
Yeah, ease of use.
Do you remember why?
Yeah, ease of access. She wanted to, as quickly as she could, to communicate with essential to do her job.
Exactly. She was doing her job the best way she could because we, the security people, had made it so extremely difficult to access White House emails when not inside the house.
Imagine that.
And the learning I think that we as an industry can take from this is that maybe our job is not to make it difficult for you to do your job, but make it easy while keeping it secure.
Okay, so let me ask you a question again, because a lot of the places they took security awareness, security awareness, security awareness. Security awareness is the same as security culture. Is it a component part of security culture? Is security culture at the bottom? Like if you do this, this by default, you have security culture. Is it a journey? What is it?
It's all of those.
Okay.
So one of the challenges things with culture is that as a concept, it's abstract.
Yes.
It's an all-encompassing concept. Culture is in your language, both of your languages, English and Spanish. In my case, Swedish, Norwegian, German, and English. Not so much
All right.
Spanish. Hola, a little bit Spanish, but you know. Culture is in the technology we use.
Mm-hmm.
How we made the technology, how we created it, how we made it available, how we use it. It's everywhere there. Culture is in all the rules that we have, the policies, the laws, every norm that tells you, without actually putting it into words, how to behave. So, for example, should you or should you not go to prostitutes if you are married? Stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
all those things are part of culture.
Okay.
And in an organization, then, when we're talking about security culture, the security culture is everything in that organization that pertain to security. Which means that, yes, it's all about the firewalls and the networks and the controls and the IAMs and all those things. It's all about the policies, all about the audits and the procedures and all the textual size.
Okay.
It's all about legal, HR, how sales are speaking or not. But of course, it's also ultimately about the people. What you are doing and what you are not doing. One of the questions I sometimes ask CISOs is, in your organization, to what extent do your employees talk about security? And usually it's like, yeah, well, they talk about security or they don't talk about security. So sometimes, some places they don't, then you know that, okay, I need to start conversations about security. But if they already do talk about security, the follow-up question is this. So, Edgar, in your organization, they do talk about security. Is it positive or negative? Right?
Wow.
And already there you have like, okay, they don't talk about security. Well, then that's a problem. We need to talk about security. They do talk about security, but it's negative. Oh, you need to up your game. You need to turn that upside down and say, well, security is a business enabler. But that starts with us, the security people. We need to stop stopping business and start enabling business. And then if it is positive, you are halfway there. Now you can start to have these kind of conversations where you say, well, so how can I help you do your project better? How can I help you close more deals? How can I help you reduce friction? How can I help our business make more money, more profit? Because that's
So,
ultimately
that's very clear and very specific, and I like it. So, how do you deal with the CISOs when they say the organization, they don't care about security and they don't want to listen to me when I tell them about security? Is it an organizational problem or is it a CISO problem? How do you deal with that, right?
So in my experience, it's usually both.
Okay.
But you, as a CISO, in that regard, you need to ask yourself the question: why did they hire a CISO? Right? Because that will give you pointers to the organizational. We just had a breach. We had an audit. It pointed to the fact that we don't have any role or position in of information security. Okay, we hire someone. Problem solved. Right? Then this is more likely a organizational issue. I need to work with the board, the C-suite, to make them realize the value I bring. And by value, I don't mean firewalls and blinking blue LEDs and whatever. I mean business dollar value.
It's important.
Some research, a CISO I spoke to some time ago, he said that every single communication I have includes a dollar value.
Wow.
This is how much I lost you because we didn't catch that in time. This is how much we save you because we picked that one instead of that one. This is X. This is Y. How much money I need to do these things.
But
And then
that's
they break it down into dollar values.
That's a conversation, Kai, because now we're asking the CISOs to be knowledgeable of how the organization does business. Not just focus on technical, but on business.
Not all of them. Let's be, but many of them still do that. But an increasing amount of CISOs are coming up either from business side or from compliance side, legal side sometimes. And an increasing amount of organizations do realize that the CISO is about risk management, not technology.
There you go.
Right? And risk management, ultimately, by the end of the day, what do the CISO do? They manage risk, business risk. Do we buy that company? Yes or no? Can we accept that risk of that campaign? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? So it's all risk management. And as security professionals, we know risk management, but in our small sphere of information security, learn that the business is about a financial risk.
Yes.
It's about this, about all these other amazingly fascinating areas. But in the beginning, it's like me learning Spanish. It's like I hear some noise there, so some stuff going on, but idea what is actually going on. Then I go about try to learn it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that means hello, hola, right?
It's all about learning the process.
They get this rolling, and you can figure out how you do your job, which is to enable your business to do more and better business.
Kai, in the last CISO summit that we did in October, a conversation I had with one of the CISOs present was interesting because he said, when the first CISOs came on, right, they were all technically focused because that's what they wanted, right? Then came the second wave, and he said that's where we are, right? And we are technical, but we're also learning the business, right? The third wave that's coming up, we've already done a lot of the work. So the first CISO did a lot of the work. We took that and we created more importance around the role. And as you're saying, now they're looking, from risk perspective. So the third wave coming in are more business focused. So what you said basically, corroborates issues that are going around these things. So do you see in your studies that you're doing, do you see an increment in definitely security culture being viewed as extremely more important for by organizations?
So I think security culture is something that is always there, right? So in that regard, it's always been important. The difference I see is that more people are realizing that there is this thing called security culture,
And that's what
that
I meant. I
thing
mean,
is,
it's more focused, more identified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More people are realizing and recognizing the fact that security culture is a real thing. It's not some pink cloud somewhere that you can pretend is not existing. It is very much there, and is very much impacting, for example, ransomware threats. So, and that is something changed. You've known me for I don't know 10, 15 years now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know that I've dedicated a lot of my
Yeah.
career to security culture.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I mean,
I
I
remember
almost
when you were developing the
yeah,
security
I had to hold
culture
you down
framework.
like Edgar, shut the f up. You have to listen to me. This is important. And now finally you're like,
Yeah.
oh, security culture. Yeah,
Come
jokes
on,
aside.
man. It wasn't that. I know.
No. Jokes aside, it's taken a while, and this is normal when new concepts come around, and people with one specific focus start learning that there is another focus that you also need to care about. In the beginning, they will try to ignore you, then they will fight you, and then they will start accepting it, and that's where we are today, I believe.
It's a cool thing. In the previous conversation that we were having, you mentioned the word culture, security culture, but one of the words that you mentioned the most around, and in case you didn't notice, you always mention how. How. You mentioned that more than any other word, and I found that very interesting. Um, I mean, do you realize that how, how do we use it? How
Mhm.
is this? How does that happen? Why do you think that is? Why do you think the how is very important in cybersecurity?
In my opinion, it is very important because about people. By the end of the day, you are a person. I know it may be a shock to you, but you are a person. And person, there are specific things going on inside your head, your brain, psychology, right? And one of those things is you need to understand how things relate to whatever it is that you do. It's part of the motivation side. So you need to know the what side and the why side and the how side. Without those things, you are not likely to do it. And one of the challenges our industry has, in my opinion, is that we still struggle on figuring out how, I said it again,
Yeah.
we do security culture, security awareness, security behaviors, and making the information side of our companies secure. So we're still struggling with that. But that's also why we need the research. It's why we need to do stuff, even if we don't know if it works or not, because it's better to do stuff in case it works than not do stuff that may work. And then the other benefit of doing stuff, even if we don't know if it will help us, is that we can collect data. We can test it, see that, oh, okay, so this actually did work for us, or this one didn't work for us. So let's do more of that did work and less of that didn't work. But you need to do those experiments in your organization. To your point earlier, this is about your organization. Your organization is
Yes.
going to be unique, which means require these kind of experiments to happen in your organizations.
So instead of calling it an experiment, because I was just writing here while I was listening and everything, because you said something very interesting, right? Security culture, and again, the how. We need to understand how. How is this business done? How is this part? How how does the ER function, right? And you at the beginning you say, well, there's an average of 10 people, everyone with their unique requirements, blah blah blah. So now you know the how. So for an expert, your expertise, would that be interesting or good for the CISO to focus on those little experiments, as calling it? Let's just let's just focus on that. How do we develop cybersecurity culture around the ER? It's
Mm?
smaller, it's more manageable, we learn the process from there, and then we collect data, as you mentioned, data to measure, because that's extremely important. And once you start measuring that it's getting better, now you have a good process and you can move on to the next. Is that a good approach?
I think that on paper, yes, but in practice, the challenge with that specific example of yours, the ER, the hospital, is that it may work very well in that operational setting. So in ERs and operational rooms, for teams doing those kind of works, it may work very well. It may not, but at least you can. There is reason to believe that it will be replicatable. The challenge comes when you are trying to take that same process and the same program and force it for the admin staff, for example, or for the departments that deal with people after operations, reconvalescence or whatever they call them, or you have the porters, those people pushing people around in the rooms, and because of their roles and their functions different, right? They may actually require different kind of trainings, but also I would say that they probably expose your organization to different kinds of risks, which brings us to another favorite topic of ours, right? Risk management and risk assessments and those kind of things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's why when I did the ransomware control matrix, I said, right, you can use this, but before you use it, you need to understand your risk appetite, right? Because it's not a one fits all, right? A control that's very critical for you is not going to be critical for me, right?
Yes.
But it's a control. And so
and you know the way to describe that to a banker or to a CFO?
How?
Different investment opportunities have different financial risk. And some of them you will be more than happy to invest in, for example, an index fund, whereas others you are likely to say, not with my own money. And that's the same kind of thing. But the difference is that banker or investment person or CFO usually will have more exposure to understand that kind of risk. Maybe not to, but at least the enough to understand that, oh yeah, that is definitively more risk, and I can see how that will suck money from my bank account. And I think that challenges we have in our industry. We need to figure out a good way to explain the exposure and the risk in a way that makes sense for those people who need to understand it in order to be able to make those risk assessments and decide, can I accept that risk, yes or no? So if I ask you, can you accept a ransomware attack? Of course you will say no.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But if I say, well, it will cost us $100K to detect that. Now can you accept the risk? And I'm like, what is the potential?
Livelihood,
exactly.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you start doing all that stuff, yeah. No, understood. Is that the same thing? Because we're running out of time. Is that the same thing with thinking about cybersecurity culture? Do you have an option? Do you tell CISOs, you have an option, either yes or no, or you have no option?
You have the option. Do you want to control it? Yes or no?
Okay.
And can I avoid having a security culture? No. Every organization has a security culture. It will either be good or bad. It will either be strong or weak, but it will be there. The option you have is, do you care? Right? So you can, now in our organization, I don't care about the culture here.
Yeah.
I'll put in place some policy or buy another firewall.
Yeah.
Or you can say, well, my job is actually care about the risk, which means that my job is to translate the risk into something that the management can understand enough to make decisions, which means that I actually dig into this concept of security culture, how it exposes our organization to risk for example, ransomware or business email compromise or whatever it is, and then translate that into, this is what we need to do my dear board or C-suite, whoever you need to go to get those things. These are the actions. This is what it costs us. This is what it will save us. And by the way, by working on security culture, you also get the benefit of a nicer, better work culture, which HR is going to love.
Oh, beautiful. All right. So, Kai, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here with us, taking this time. Uh, I know you're gonna be hanging out with your new business family there in Sweden. Enjoy it, my friend. Enjoy that red wine.
Muchas gracias. Eh?
I
And
appreciate you being here.
I will enjoy the evening here. I will also be dreaming of next time we and the
Absolutely.
next GT and Zacapa and
Oh, it'll be
these kind of
amazing.
conversations.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kai. Todo, muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Bendiciones. Nos vemos la próxima semana.